Hello everybody, CritCrab here with another story, this one aptly titled To Catch a Predator D&D Edition. So why don't you take a seat right over there, and as usual, roll post. I used to be a part of a Westmarch's Discord D&D server months ago. As a reference, Westmarch's servers are essentially servers that focus on one-shots for one particular setting, allowing the characters the player plays to progress through different one-shots and different DMs. Although the accessibility is a huge plus, allowing for newbies and veterans alike to hang out, being able to adjust for a tight schedule easily, this can make way for plenty of bad people to leech on and not let go. These were one of those times. With the case of Howard, a 22-year-old male, name replaced for anonymity of course. When he first came onto the server, it didn't take long to give off a negative impression, even if he seemed nice at the start. He played an assassin rogue wood elf named Fullred, with some convoluted backstory involving him being drafted as a soldier into war when he was a child. Something happened, I believe involving a cult, that led him to his sister being trapped in some kind of amulet. He had this odd, magical version of DID where he would switch to this character called White whenever he got pissed off, going completely feral and threatening to kill people, having even attacked my character when he was taken to the temple he resided in for help. The first time he switched was during roleplay in between games, when a drow tavern owner told him off for not respecting other players' boundaries, alongside his need to be mothered by the people around him. Now, I didn't get the second part, but the first part was pretty apparent when I scrolled upwards, when he and his raven were invading the personal space of her and her girlfriend. This was the first red flag, especially when he made extremely passive-aggressive out-of-character comments about her and me, an innocent bystander who just wanted a bento box from the kitchen. However, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, as sometimes I wound up taking in-character things personal at times. I thought that was the case, and technically it was true, but oh boy, things got worse from there. An entire server was created about his shenanigans, constantly sharing memes about him and things he did. There are so many stories I could tell, but this story will go on for hours if I talk about them all. As time went on, Howard started to get suspicious after his in-character girlfriend had to leave the server. Fullred got a crush on literally every girl he met. He made really creepy out-of-character comments regarding other people's female characters, including but not limited to calling one of my friend's NPCs the town's next public urinal for having an active sex life, and even made a second character, a female Dampier named Nicolette. As Nicolette, he constantly stated in character about how she was a girl and a vampire. To the point of where that was just the extent of her personality. He also sexualized her quite a bit, to the point where one time he literally listed her breast size when giving a description of her. They were double Ds, of course, because why wouldn't they? So yeah, very obvious fetish integration on a D&D server full of minors. I started to get more and more suspicious of his behavior towards women in character and out of character, and it spiraled during the PMs of a female character, played by a friend of mine. She was talking to Fullred about how she was continuously raped as a child, and the first out of character comment he made after the reveal was essentially, "Oh, she's not a virgin? Oh well, Nicolette can fix that." For context, he associated a broken hymen with losing your virginity, so he believed that if you regenerated your hymen, it would be restoring your virginity. Weird as fuck, I know. After that, I had a bit of an idea. I wound up leaving the server at that time due to many reasons I'd rather not say here. Keep in mind though, he was partly the reason. And even though I left, I still cared about the server and was legitimately afraid of Howard at that point. I wanted to make sure that he wasn't being predatory with any girls on the server, especially underage ones. He was already pretty sexual with a minor already, one of my other friends. He was a guy and was clearly uncomfortable with the interaction, but Howard was still persistent. When a seemingly normal conversation delved into some sort of odd fantasy of his, of my friend being a boss of some company and getting his dick sucked under a desk. Though I didn't hear about this until a bit after, so I had a plan. To make sure that if he is being predatory, his ass will get booted off the server. I posed as a 16-year-old girl from Nevada by the name of Emily. My character was an Aasimar that looked like a half-elf, as I knew his type by then to be elvish. Due to one of Full Red's magical items being magical angel wings that sprouted out during roleplay when he wanted to act like the epitome of goodness and compassion, I knew he had a fixation for angels. I named her Ela, and she was essentially a cheery and excitable bimbo cheerleader stereotype, who liked to garden and sing. Basically, Howard's dream girl from what I've seen. She was a divine soul sorcerer / bard mix. I made Emily's personality similar to Ela's, but being a cheerleader IRL herself. I made absolute sure that no one knew I was pretending to be her, not even my friends. I even swapped the time zones on my phone to replicate Nevada when I sent evidence to the admins. Only my boyfriend knew, and he left the server with me. I changed my typing style to be grammatically pristine and used my emoji button like there's no tomorrow. I was fucking ready, no matter how long it took, to make sure this guy wasn't harming little girls. And he took the bait immediately after I posted my reference for her. He exclaimed Ela to be so fucking hot after seeing her reference photo, leaving a little hard eyes emoji reaction below it. I was legitimately surprised he took it so quickly and took it hard. After a brief run-in with him, my character left because I was getting bored and he was clearly busy. He PM'd me, expressing his disappointment about not being able to talk to her and so they can, quote, not be friendos. A clear flirt, despite the fact that Full Red at the time was engaged. The very first message, and he already tried to joke flirt with our characters. I responded, obviously not feeding his advances to see if he'll proceed further, and he did, with highlights such as, ooh woo, private convo with Full Red? Haha, well, so a beautiful cheerleader who's nerdy for D&D and super smart in classes? Sounds pretty perfect, lol. And nice. Good dreams? Bet I could guess what you were dreaming about, wink emoji. He used the wink emoji a lot during our conversations, by the way. At least 10 times, and we did not talk that often. One of my personal favorites was when I was talking about how Ela basically turned her room into a greenhouse. I was listing off the various flowers she had in there, and he responded with, jokingly speaking, if she's in a tiny garden, would she be the primrose too precious to deflower, pluck from the garden of beauty? I bet Eve would be jealous Adam picked something else, lol. This made me personally realize how much Howard took this bait. He didn't just swallow the worm, not even the hook. He swallowed the whole damn fishing line. Of course, this was only towards my character, but I knew that if he was charmed by Ela that easily, Emily would not be that much of an exception. I gave him my first sign I was a minor, claiming I was in school so my responses would be sparse. Of course, in online classes due to the pandemic. This did not stop his flirting as he responded to this reveal by saying, I see, haha. Good girl for being a good student. Don't let me distract you too much, wink emoji. Which really rubbed me the wrong way. Big time. I revealed my grade a bit afterwards, alongside my age. Now, the reason I picked Nevada was one thing and one thing only. The legal age there is 16. Of course, that doesn't mean his flirting is any less creepy, and that doesn't mitigate the age of consent laws over Discord and the internet in general, which is 18. However, I had a feeling that the consent laws for Nevada, which I did state were a thing as Emily, would prevent him from being scared away, and oh boy, it did not. In fact, it seems like it made him even more enticed. I talked about my life, which was, of course, fabricated to hell and back. He wanted to VC, but I gave the excuse that I was mute, in case he would recognize my voice if I spoke out. He then started to get extremely simpy, even more so than what he did with that flower comment. He exclaimed how smart I was, and I asked why. He went on an entire psychoanalytical rant regarding my proper grammar and how I played my character to be purposefully sociable. Which, I mean, he did get it pretty right on the nose. I made Hila an everybody's friend character, a beacon of positive energy as a means of being able to attract his character towards me. In the end, he exclaimed, "Or, TLDR, I can just Sherlock Holmes the crap out of you and I can just tell," with yet another winky emoji. This man used more winky emojis in those few days than I have ever used in my entire life. I found that pretty funny considering how I was pretending to be someone else the entire time. Either way, the next day passed and we talked a bit more. He gave more information about himself, saying he was 22 years old and training to be a pharmacist, yet still considered himself a doctor despite not having a PhD yet. I talked about being in Nevada, my high school life, being a cheerleader, and how I also wanted to go into the medical field. He mentioned how a sexy nurse's costume or sexy scrubs would be a nice look for Halloween. Keep in mind at this point he knew I was 16. He showed pictures of his pet, which was about the only thing truly wholesome about our conversations with each other. The cat was actually really cute and I still smile at photos of it from time to time. At least he's not a cat hater. After some time I had to take a shower. This gave me an idea. To bait him one last time, by of course saying that I'm taking a shower. And dear Lord, he didn't swallow the fishing line with that. He swallowed the boat. He said, "Oh, don't tease me like that, baby," with another goddamn wink emoji. I knew this man for 5 days and he has already expressed signs of grooming from the constant over-complimenting and sexual references. Constant, direct sexual flirting, very simp-like behavior both towards Hila and Emily, and had a flag so red it could pierce through the rosiest glasses fucking imaginable. Keep in mind, not only have y'all not seen it all because, again, I'd be here all day, I didn't even flirt with him back. I constantly switched topics, ignored flirtatious behavior, and tried to be this oblivious little girl that didn't know shit. The only thing I did that reassured him was state that despite being 16, I and Emily were considered a legal adult in Nevada. Not even on Discord or the internet in general. In Nevada. Maybe, just maybe, you could consider the time I referenced sex once as flirting maybe. But even then, that nowhere near justifies the gross behavior he exemplified towards a kid. This was the last straw. At that point, I was legitimately stunned. Not surprised, I was scared, paranoid. It was hard to sleep that night. If he said all of this to a non-existent girl over the course of 5 days, what about the real little girls who were legitimately oblivious to his advances, and would have stayed in contact with him for longer? Weeks? Months? Years? I had to tell the admins. After giving them the evidence, it literally took them minutes to decide to ban him, when otherwise he could have stayed there for many months longer, preying on the minors on the server and manipulating them into doing awful things. And God, I hope, I pray that when I told him off for doing this, still pretending to be Emily one last time, that he had his lesson. If not, then he might be grooming girls to this day. I don't want to give away his Discord tag in case he did learn his lesson, but please, if you see creepy behavior, don't be afraid to call them out on it. Let others know. We can't let people like him get away with shit like this, and Howard, if you're reading this, take the words I have said and use it to better yourself. Don't play the victim card. Your behavior can legitimately traumatize little girls and land you in jail. Plus, if you're planning on being in the medical field, they are very unforgiving towards creepy individuals, especially those who have pedophile-like behavior. Even if you're somehow miraculously not a pedophile, go to therapy, stop being a dick. TLDR, I was suspicious this player on a West Marches had predatory intentions, pretending to be a little girl to bait him, and my suspicions were proven justified. By a lot. End post. Honestly, I have very little to say about this story other than good on OP and the mod team for flushing this turd. Regardless of whether or not this guy is a pedophile with a capital P or just creeping on someone he found attractive who happened to be underaged, it makes very little difference. It's pretty obvious that this adult was into this kid, and as we all know, 22 plus 16 equals jail time. Also, not so fun fact, the Nevada age of consent law would only apply if she was within 4 years of his age, so the physical act is still super illegal regardless. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories just like this one. Till next time.